Ryan.
Hello, Rachel.
How are you?
Oh, I'm in a joyful mood right now because I spotted someone in the episode of The Expanse we're talking about today. There was someone I saw, and I pointed at the screen a bit way through the episode and said, "Hey, is that Ken from Barbie?" And you said, I was thinking the exact same thing, but I didn't want to say it out loud because I haven't seen him in much. And I'm like, I think that's Ken. And then our Discord, our Discord for our patrons, someone said there, one of our great listeners said, "Hey, keep an eye out for an MCU star." And I just went, wait, who's the MCU star? I don't know. And then then I looked through it and I'm like, oh, it's the guy who played Ken. He's one of the guys. He's Shang-Chi and the magical rings. And the one thing I know about that guy is not a favorable thing about him in real life and a certain Reddit he used to use. So I'm in a joyful mood because there's just so much chaotic goodness, and I have another piece of important news, at least for our end, of a person in this cast that we recognize from another show, but we'll get there when we talk about that storyline. But how about yourself, Rachel? How are you doing today?
Pretty good. You always want me to elaborate, and I'm always just like,
She's an Aussie. She's an Aussie. You can't blame her. How are you doing? All right. How are you doing? Pretty good. Now, you have to say, yeah, pretty good. That's the real Aussie in you. But what are we doing here today? I already said the Expanse, but I also said Ken, Barbie. Are we talking about the Barbie movie?
No. We are here first and foremost to record an episode discussing of sci-fi television for our patrons.
And I guess for the main feed as well. It's definitely a sci-fi show. I know it's a sci-fi show because the sci-fi logo does pop up on the screen.
Yeah, they make sure you know.
And we were given a little bit of a push to look at if the Blu-rays in the full series pack has this, because we have the first 3 seasons Blu-ray pack, and now we have the full lot. And we were still watching the Blu-ray from the previous pack because it was literally like the last episode on the disc or whatever. And so I put in the other one in the machine, had a look, no Sci-Fi logo was popping up. And I'm really surprised because why would they get rid of that? It was my favorite character of season 3. right next to Anna. Is this god of the Expanse, this meta-breaking weird thing that would just bloop on the screen? But we do have a Patreon where we release these episodes first. So if you want to support our podcast and get these episodes early, as well as be a part of that amazing community that has been brought up, head on over to the Patreon. But we are watching The Expanse.
Mm-hmm.
And is this a rewatch for us? We're going back through it again and wondering about why did they do these things? Oh, it's because on a rewatch, that's the reasoning why.
No, we are both watching it for the first time, but we bring our unique perspective, which is not the fact that we're the only Australians covering The Expanse.
I have not double-checked that, nor will I. I believe we're the first Australian podcast to cover The Expanse episode by episode, and I will not hear otherwise. If you bring me others, I will not believe you. And I will not believe that actor who played Dr. Accent was from here in any way, shape, or form. I was told that, and I don't believe it. I think that was a fake Australian.
Anyway, that's not the point. That's not the point. The point is that we embrace a show on the basis of Yum Yum, which is originally from Star Trek Discovery, but has permeated everything in the entire universe, at least for us.
It never left our minds.
And this line of dialogue is said, an individual in the cast is asked, hey, you want to go murder that guy? And her reply is to sexily flip her hair back,
Mm-hmm.
purse those lips,
Maybe even lick them.
and say yum yum.
I think it's time to know what episode this week we are talking about. What did we watch on those cursed Blu-rays with a Sci-Fi logo popping up?
Dandelion Sky, which is all I know. I don't know what the summary for this one is because we don't look at those ahead of time.
We are reading from IMDb because it's the same as the physical media, so what does it matter?
We now know that.
It's such a sadness. But this is episode 10 of season 3, Dandelion Sky, and the description is very fun. Holden sees past, present, and future. A ghost from Melba's past threatens her mission. Bobby struggles to trust an old friend as she leads a group into uncharted territory. They could have played more with Melba's got a ghost from the past, and then this person's got a thing in the present, and then, this person's got to deal with the future to really line up with the thing. But what I really appreciate about this is it makes it sound like Holden had a Christmas Carol type adventure in the episode.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a ghost from my past. What did Holden do in his past that gives him a ghost? It's Miller with a hat. Miller, a man that he knew hatless, and the episode painstakingly goes out of its way to tell us even further why he has a hat, which is I like the hat. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Show. You the show like the hat. You like the hat.
It's definitely not covering up whatever
wacky haircut Thomas Jane probably had for another production. Oh my god. And if he had a ghost from his present, I don't know, I guess who would it be? Naomi, because they're love, and ghost from his future, I don't know, death, obviously. If Holden dies in this show, which I don't know anything, we've never watched beyond this episode, if Holden did die, what would you imagine his death being? How would they kill this puppy?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No, I'm not sure.
I think he would have a sex-related incident.
I think it would be a sacrifice situation.
I think instead he just fucked too hard, too much in 0G, and then the gravity came back on.
So hard, he blows a blood vessel.
He nuts so hard that he penetrates the hull and sucks himself out into space. And that is a great segue into what did we find to be particularly yum yum in this episode.
We get naked Holden.
When we say yum yum,
again,
that's where we lick our lips sexily, and we say that makes me hungry. That makes me aroused. And you said it. Mine is obviously Holden naked, flying through whatever void he is. They are very artistic in that. They don't show you all of the goods, even though with where he's being flung, the direction of his body, the penis would have a certain amount of floppage that we would have seen, but they're being tasteful for the senses, I guess. But boy, I was so thrilled. And is it just beyond just a joke between you and I, is it genuinely amusing to you that they reserve all of the sexy, nudity, horny factor for Holden?
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Why him? There's other sexy people in this show. Like, this show's full of beefcakes and babes, and they keep just saying, nah. The audience wants to see Warren Peace from Sky High's butt. I'm not against it. It's a good butt, but maybe let us see some more stuff. We got Naomi, but again, that's connected to Holden. But Rachel, you are screaming at the top of your lungs about a certain person that gets you hot and bothered with the Expanse. There's a certain beefcake on the Rocinante that you like to give an automatic pick for. So tell us about that, and what was this character's moment in Dandelion Sky? May I add, good luck.
Yeah, he's not in a lot. Amos, my automatic Amos pick. I'm just gonna throw it to him saying, "You want me to say this is some weird shit? Some weird shit."
Why are you being so much like yourself? Is none of this stuff weirding you out?
You want me to say this is some weird shit? Yeah. This is some weird shit.
Thank you. And we're playing way out of our league here.
That's been true ever since we've been sharpening sticks and going after lions. But we're still here.
Tell us your thoughts on Dandelion Sky.
It was pretty good. I got a lot more Holden than we hypothesized.
And you're not saying that because we saw him with his pants off.
No, I didn't mean it literally. It is adding in more mystery. Like now last episode it got the pieces where they needed to be, and now it's like, let's play again.
And your thoughts on that overall? Do you think that's a good thing? That's a bad thing? Did it engage you? Did it leave you lacking like with other episodes, even the most recent one?
It left me mostly satiated. I'm like, okay, let's see what happens here. I'm not like on the edge of my seat being like, I need to know now. I'm like, okay, next week.
So
same time, same bat channel. Okay.
You don't sound that thrilled, yet you still say positive things. You confound me sometimes. Like, I was going to ask you, like, what about this one satiated you more than others? And then you just keep going. I'm like, oh, I don't know. You don't sound convinced that you liked this one, but then you say it, you do. So I don't know. We'll find out more as this conversation goes along. Prod some stuff out of Rachel. She's stoic. That's what we always say about Rachel. She's an Aussie lady. She keeps things close to the vest, only occasionally letting you know that she does find Amos to be a beefcake that's very attractive and wants to take a bite. But my thoughts on Dandelion Sky is that this is one of the best episodes of the season. I really enjoyed this one. I thought it delivered on the things that this series does extremely well. It gives you that intrigue, that mystery, that sense of adventure that underlies the entire thing and that many people come to the show for. But it is very much focused on the character work and utilizes the writer's best skill, which is talking about faith, talking about free will and destiny, talking about one's position in the universe. I really do believe that when they tap into these elements, the more metaphysical and philosophical, when they marry those together, that's really when this show gets cooking for me. It's not the sci-fi action or the answers to the mysteries that we've been getting, or the corporate espionage, or even the space politics, which I do like very much, but it's when the Expanse talks about the stuff it talks about in Dandelion Sky that really gets me invested in the show. It really gets me thinking, but not only that, this isn't just dry sci-fi in which it's broaching subject matters to spark thoughts and conversations, but they add an emotional element to it, and I always appreciate that. We often make sure when we talk about Star Trek Discovery that when we complain about the over-emotionality, it's not because we don't want any emotional stuff in there. We do, it's just they go too far. I think The Expanse is an example of a series that has the balance of it just right.
Yeah, I think they've found that. It wasn't an immediate thing. But I do think that they've settled on a good balance point at this point in the show.
And we have a balancing of all of the different plot lines and episodes. This has so many different little plot strands and touching of base with certain characters, and yet I did not feel like Dandelion Sky was burdened or straining under the weight of it all, or was not servicing the plots themselves. Like, Amos and Alex get jack shit to do in this episode. They get, 2 scenes, maybe 3 if we're being generous, and you could easily not have them be in the episode and it would not lessen things, but what they do have adds to the thematic resonance, as well as just touching base with those characters. This is not the Expanse so blatantly just having them there to keep the actors' contracts going in the way that they are done, or to necessitate the overarching scripting stuff where, last episode they were left there, so we have to feed the audience the knowledge of what's happening to them now. No. It's not as so ham-fisted about those things. It's more about having these 2 characters converse about subject matters that we will get more of in the episode, but we've had before, especially from Alex. So tell us a bit more about what's going on with these 2. It's short and it's sweet and it's to the point, but what is going on with Alex and Amos as they're left on the Rocinante, left in the dust of their captain just leaving them behind?
They're a little stuck because they're watching this unfold and they can't really do anything about it. And, we get a little bit more Amos lore, where he tells a story about a woman that he used to know back in Baltimore.
Oh, yeah.
Who was like, if she was just like, okay, the end is coming, I'm gonna go get drunk and jump off the roof with my cats. And the reason that I specifically remember this is because within that conversation, Amos makes it clear that Alex is his cat.
It makes sense. Now, the lead-in to that is really interesting because they're between a rock and a hard place. Their captain has left them in a situation in which
instructions not to do anything in regards to him.
Don't follow me, don't come after me, just keep going. But the thing is, they're going to run out of space. They have very limited options. They have a warship after them. I don't even know if they register the skiff as well that Naomi is on. But Alex says the big thing this season. He's been very much examining the bigger picture of their situation. We had him talk about free will versus destiny in another episode. This episode, he broaches that again, but he goes even further and says, what happens if we die? And Amos is very much blustering of, well, we're all going to die. That's guaranteed. We are going to die. That's perfectly fine.
He's really getting skeeved out by the vibe of the bubble.
And what does Alex mean when he says we could all die?
Oh, he thinks that this place could bring about, or is a sign of, maybe, the end of humanity. It's not that they as individuals will die, it's that humanity will.
This episode, he says that idea, and by the end, we see that he's right. Because Holden, I'm not to get too full into it, but Holden witnesses that this device will trigger a supernova in whatever galaxy, and that could be theirs. And so Alex's concern is true.
Yeah.
We find out, and I want to know your opinion on not only that, but...
It's interesting that we get that validation within the episode, because there are examples from this show where that question is not that quickly answered. And I'm finding it more interesting the further we get along the fact that character questions don't get answered for a long time. Plot questions
are getting answered much quicker.
Mm-hmm. Like, even though we're still kind of dealing with the same mystery that we started the show with. We get questions, we get answers, we get more questions.
And they are pretty direct with the answers. They aren't hiding them so much when they give them. It's very straightforward. And
it's not like, haha, bet you can't figure out this thing.
What I am wanting to really...
doesn't do Star Trek Discovery.
It doesn't do the burn in Star Trek Discovery, right? But what I really want to grapple with is that Alex has served as the character that has not been prophetic per se, but he has hit the nail on the head pretty much every time thus far. And yet...
he's insightful in a way that you don't expect him to be.
Why is that? Why don't you expect him to be?
Because he's so dumb when it comes to his personal life. Is a part of it, but it's also like he's the pilot. And we assume that he's along for the ride, not that he actually has insight to give.
Alex is the member of the Rocinante that needs the most reassurance. And he reaches out to Amos. He wants to know, do you ever need these things? Do you ever feel worried? Do you ever feel like you are relying on others for support? And most importantly, do you ever feel fear?
And Amos is just like, I haven't felt fear since I was 5 years old. Just fact.
But
just slam down.
And Alex is envious of that. He says, I wish I could live a life without fear. And I think we can all understand Alex in that moment. There's been many times in which that has been a truth for us, but Amos disagrees, of course. Amos knows the burden of it, knows the trauma that it brings. In fact,
also, like, the trauma of whatever fucking caused you to not be afraid. Like, it's like, what happened to a 5-year-old?
We saw in the second season a stretch of episodes of Amos suffering because he wanted to fix this, and he could not fix this. There was no real healthy way of fixing himself. This void within his psyche is something that does trouble him. Just because he does not feel fear does not mean he does not feel things at all. And he very much puts an underline on the statement of, no, you don't.
I wish that I could tell you I was freaked out, but I'm not.
Not even a little.
I haven't felt fear since I was 5 years old.
Man, I wish I could go through life without feeling fear.
No. You don't.
Naomi's here too. Does she get like that one scene where she's driving her little ship and the Martians tell her to fuck off and she says no? Is that it? Is that her scene? That's all she really gets? There may be other variants of that, but all she is just flying around and she's going, Rocinante, can you hear me? And then going, why can't they hear me? And then being told, hey, you're not allowed here. And she just says,
at no point is she's just, it's like, why are their comms not working? She's just like, they're not picking up.
It was an easy day for that actress. She got to sit down. There's nothing to say. Like, they even dangle later on, hey, Holden, you care so much about your friends and Naomi, you wouldn't want to fuck it up for them, would you? Come with us and everything will be safe. And I can't help but keep flashing back to Naomi sitting on, well, honestly, the actress of Naomi sitting on this rinky-dink little set as they shake it about and she's wobbling her shoulders and she's like, I'm on my way. As high-end as The Expanse can be in his production and stuff, and his presentation, This made me think of Babylon 5 with Catherine Sakai driving her little ship, and it just had like mesh behind her and she's like shaking her shoulders. I thought about that during every single moment, every single brief moment of Naomi being here. She's here too. Do you think she'll reach the ship next episode?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, that's our Naomi check-in. Thank you for being here. I'm glad that actress got paid her full wages, even though she was in 2 seconds of the episode. God bless. Make sure to pay the actors correctly, and this is the correct amount of give her the full check. But let's go over to the behemoth and what's happening with Drummer and Ashford. I think there's some friction there.
Yeah, they're continuing with their power struggle, and I love the way the drummer calls out Ashford. Of like, oh, you challenged me openly, but let me guess. Now you're like, oh no, don't question the captain. So that when, mutiny happens,
they will believe that you had the best interests of me and the ship from the very beginning, even though you were the one sowing the seeds of discontent. You were the one that was undermining me. You were the one that put doubt. You were the one that divided the crew. You can say, no, I wasn't. See all of these moments when I defended Drummer and I stood up for her and I assuaged.
That scene in the hangar bay really got me thinking, 2 belters enter, 1 belter leaves.
She would kick his ass, right? She would screw him up real. I don't know, maybe. I mean, he seems pretty tough. He's pretty tough stuff. There was that scene on the bridge where they're calling each other out on stuff and how she is someone that needs to be a better captain and that she shouldn't play favorites, but he's doing it in front of other people. And that's the problem. Maybe if he wants to be legitimately a good right hand, he needs to take her to the side and say this to her. But he doesn't mean to actually be a good right hand. He does want to take control. Mm-hmm. And that's...
We don't question that. Like, we have been told that over and over again. And he has said as much at various points. But we aren't sure how far he's willing to go in pursuit of that.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure that you let our great engineer away when she could have been modifying us with probes. Oh, well. And then Drummer gives him a solution immediately, and he has to take it. But he already said the thing that needed to be said. So when people like Diogo over there give him a look, he's won. He has won what the game is already, and Drummer just has to eat shit and take it. Mm-hmm. And that conversation with Diogo, so Ashford is walking around and Diogo pulls him aside. I want to punch
him in the face so much.
Why do you hate Diogo so much? He's just
the tattoo.
He's just a lad. He's just a guy.
He's a fuckwit.
He's a fuckwit, but he's a teenage fuckwit. He's such a dickhead. I love him. He really does have that high school boy energy, huh? And now he's a part of a terrorist organization, and he wants to form a coup. Don't you just admire the fact that he probably stinks of deodorant? Come on.
He thinks he's the center of the universe.
Yeah.
And it is infuriating to me.
But doesn't Ashford think the same thing of himself? Like, he's very important. He's just more subtle about what he has to do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like, it's just the level of outward arrogance. Like, that's a pivotal difference.
Because
between the two characters.
Ashford's gone through a life. And he's learned that you have to keep your fucking mouth shut when you get stuff done.
Tread lightly.
But he hasn't done any of that during this season. Like, Ashford's not shut the fuck up about the things that he's very open about, but also he is subtle. Like, we've said this. He obfuscates, he contradicts, he has a charm, he does what he does here with Diogo, where he sounds very motivational and important, but really he's saying other things underneath.
Yes, he's a conductor. And he is conducting the people around him and their emotions to what he wants. Whereas Fuckface
Diogo
is just
opportunistic.
Yeah, and short-sighted as well. Like, but it lets Ashford know that he's succeeding.
I really liked that Ashford told Diogo some of the horrific past that he's had to go through, that he saw his son burned to death, and he saw his son die, and he's burned, and all
Does
of this.
Does he say son?
I think it was his son, right?
Yeah, like it was like that seems right, but I thought
and
he
he's
said
had
my only child,
and he's had to face off against the UN and Mars, and he's lived a life, and it has taught him a thing or two. And to even go further into your point about him being a conductor, right? He has the conversation with Drummer, and he's trying to say, hey, I understand why you let Naomi go, but you are the captain. You're not supposed to play favorites, even though we all do. If I was in charge, I would be even harder on the people I like, even though, yes, I would cut them some slack.
Oh, yeah, like I would still play favorites. I just
wouldn't make it obvious.
Yeah, and I
mean,
really,
what he's saying is correct.
Really, really like one interaction that's kind of early in this scene where Drummer's like, yeah, she was your friend, and Ashford is like, yeah, Naomi was your friend. And Drummer's like, she is my friend.
Yes.
I have, like,
because he assumed that the friendship would be over because of this.
Yeah, and that's very much a, like, transactional approach, which is very in line with Drummer. I mean, in line with Ashford.
But he would assume it would be in line with Drummer because she is a belter, she is OPA, she's in this position because they often have shown that to be. You have to do the thing we need you to do, or else we just fucking don't care.
Than other belters, like,
or other people in positions of
power. A part of her establishment as a character was her relationship with Fred.
And her previous one with Anderson.
Yep, and how she engaged with those two powerful men.
I want to just say that when Ashford brings up that Naomi has left and oh, what a shame, but I understand personal stuff, he's the reason she left. He made a play, and Drummer's calling him out on all of these things that he's doing, and he has no response to it. He has no real response. But think back to that conversation about nostalgia that he had with Naomi. He told Naomi that the crew was still alive, knowing that she would leave. He's playing divide and conquer here.
Yeah.
But then he'll come in wringing his hands going, oh, who could have seen this coming? And you made that choice? That's a surprise. No, it isn't. He knows exactly what he's doing here.
Oh, yeah. And even the way that he played it with that scene with Naomi of being like, I'm going to give you this information. But no. You shouldn't go. You shouldn't go. You need to stay here.
Do you find it interesting that for a character that's in a faction that's so anti the others, that he is utilizing the very same skills that Avasarala would use?
Not, like, I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, because...
Not surprised at all, because a huge part of the belt at this point is them trying to figure out how much of the inner stuff that they want to take on board, want to change, and how much of the Belter stuff they want to keep or is still useful.
He is different to Anderson. Anderson had a different level of sleazy political maneuvering that he would use. But I really do think that Ashford implements things that we saw very much so in the Earth stories. We would see Aaron Wright and Chris Jen and even Cottier and others
And I think that's
use
a part
these
of...
things all the time. Use these methods, these underhanded things, saying one thing with a smile, but everyone knows that you're actually saying the other thing under your breath.
I think that's a part of why I'm not pining after Avasarala, is because we are getting a lot of what she offered through the stuff with Ashford. We miss her as a character, but it doesn't feel like the show's going, okay, we're done with her, we're done with political maneuverings, bye-bye. We're dealing with the sci-fi thing and the sci-fi thing alone. No, like, that sort of job for now has shifted towards Ashford.
I do miss her. I wish that she was around, but that's okay. We have Bobby again.
Yeah, we didn't miss Bobby, but she's back.
Oh, before we get into the Bobby, I did tease that there was a cast member that I figured out they were from something that we know, and it's the actor of Ashford. He was in The Sopranos. He was that fucking weasel guidance counselor that Carmilla slept with, that Carmilla broke her sacred vows for, and he absolutely cock-blocked her and was such a prick about it. He was such a weasel, and he was the type of weasel in that show where he was so spineless, and you were in shock that he would dare try to pull what he pulled.
Like, oh, you're using your pussy against me.
Oh, my stomach. I feel sick.
You strong-armed me using the only weapon you have, your pussy.
Now let's talk about Bobby. We haven't missed her. We said that recently, I think in the last discussion.
We felt her coming. We felt her coming back.
I knew that she would because the Martian ship was there and she would most likely be on that exact ship. And they probably said that in the conversation she had with Alex, but she's back, and what are your opinions? So she's in full Marine mode, and they have her a part of a group that are going to take down Holden, because Holden is flying through the bubble space towards the nucleus, and they want to stop him because he seems like a terrorist, he seems unstable, he seems capable of any destruction. And then they talk to him,
and he sounds fucking insane. It's serviceable. It's frustrating because it's the exact thing that we would expect from these scenes. They're in a small unit, they're questioning her motives and her alliances, and she's just like, no, I am Martian. I do Martian things.
But she has the personal connection to Holden. She believes that he did not do the things he's being accused of, but she's going to perform to perform her duty. She's going to make sure that everyone's safe, even if she has to go against a colleague that she knows.
It's great that she is kind of like, when they're confronting Holden, she's just like, I better not be the last one to shoot.
Mm-hmm. Here's an issue I have.
But do I want to be the first? Do I want to be the first?
Okay, I have two issues. One, the obvious. This is a thing that you often see in stories where you have to have a character we know / they know be in the place. So it can't just be a bunch of burly Martian Marines come up and fuck Jimmy Holden and then they get fucked. No. You have to have Bobby there because, she's one of the characters. We have to sustain her. She has to be here. She's the Martian Marine, and it adds a level of intimacy. And the second problem I have is directly that. I never, ever got the sense that she liked Holden or was friends with him or even really got to know him.
respect, I would even question.
She spent time with him. That's it. She had more respect for Alex. She has more respect for Amos. When she did interact with Holden, she did respect him because he was the level-headed one and he called the shots, and she
And the captain.
and she was a part of the chain of command. She appreciated that. But on a personal level, which is what this is about, it's about his character. I really think they needed to spend a little bit more time beforehand of Bobby actually engaging with Holden, the man, outside of just plot. I don't know. I this whole entire bit, it just really fell flat for me because throughout all of it, I'm just thinking, you two characters don't have much between you.
Like,
you spend time together. You went on a mission together. But even then, when Bobby was on that mission, she was on her own.
yeah, it's just like, well, yeah, I guess you wouldn't believe that he blew up the thing.
Mm-hmm. But when she's pleading with him to stop what he's doing, and the actress is giving it her all emotionally,
like the conversation that she has on
it's unearned
on the drop with the other Martians, that makes sense. Her conversation with Holden, there could be an argument to be like, well, yeah, she's using the play that she has. She's being a Marine and that isn't authentic, but that's not the way that it feels. It doesn't feel that that's what the show is saying. The show is saying they're bonded, they know each other. She means this.
But when she is willing to shoot him, it is all the more dramatic because she's chosen her side. She is choosing being a Martian over being a quote-unquote friend. So she is going to shoot at him because she's between a rock and a hard place as well, and she's
like,
going to make her choice.
He's being dangerous.
He's being erratic. So I'm going to back up my Marines and fire upon him. I'm showing my loyalty, which is a big thing, especially with where she's gone as a character from when we first met her to now and everything in between. But Holden and Bobby are not two characters that I think have earned this type of drama. They just haven't. They just really haven't. And so when Bobby sees Ken get eviscerated by the blue goo nucleus stuff, and she looks at Holden with this absolute terror and is stunned at him jumping over here and doing that, yeah, I guess. Like, I take it. It manages, but I really wish I felt more about it. Like, with other storylines we've gone through, you really feel the tug on the heartstrings or on the emotions there. But here,
Nah.
I just think that the main problem with Bobby is it's like they treat her like a toy where they play with her for a bit and then they put her down and move on to the other toys, and then they have to come back.
G.I. Joe.
Then they have to come back to her, and I'm no longer interested. That's a thing of, fine, she's here, but it's almost like I have to get invested again in any way rather than I'm excited to see an old friend. And you said it. No Prax. Genuinely, I miss Prax. I didn't miss Bobby. I miss Prax. I want him back. I know that they aren't going to have him,
I also want him
but
to be safe.
Yes, yeah, of course I do. I don't know what it is all about with her, but I do wish that when going forward we have less reservations about her. I want to be, because I know Bobby's a popular character. That's a given. I can tell by just her presence that people like this character, and from the little conversations we've had, I don't want to be a downer on this character, and I like the actress who plays her, but seeing Kendall get turned into bits was fun.
Oh yeah, seeing him torn apart.
The nucleus has...
And then into goo, and then it gets absorbed.
We do have a journey taken to the nucleus with Jimmy Holden first, where he is flying through space, having some bizarre conversations with Thomas Jane.
And it's great. It's great that these are the conversations that they're having in this show.
It's Thomas Jane being allowed to go hog wild with all of his quirks, and I really appreciate it.
He's wearing shoes, though.
He is wearing shoes, and he must have been really upset about that.
Yep. I love the little touch of, like, we get lots of shots of the two of them, and they zoom out that little bit so that we see Holden's feet floating behind him,
Mm-hmm.
and the investigator is just, like, standing flat like he's on a floor.
Yeah, I love that. I love how just unnatural everything is within the bubble. And when we keep cutting to those almost like Matrix-like visuals with Miller and Holden, because it makes me think of the Matrix where it's like, you're moving like this, but I'm just like a program. I'm just standing still. And they have the big conversation that we've already engaged with a bit within the series, but now here it is laid bare. Fate. Is it fate? Do you have any free will? Is there anything that you do that's of your own volition, or has this all been handed down? Has this all been decided upon? And obviously, you are not surprised to learn that Holden believes in free will, and the investigator is saying that there is no free will. It's all programmed. It's all already chosen for you. Why does James Holden keep finding himself in these situations? Why is it that the program is talking to James Holden? That was one of the questions we've asked, and it's answered here. You are the best one.
Yeah.
Because you're
the tool for the job,
because
Holden.
you have proven yourself to be the most effective tool. It has been seen that you keep having to be in these moments and to step up like this. And what are your opinions on that? Because it has been a debate for Holden of, I need to step away, I can't do this any longer, but I can't help myself.
Yeah. And sort of the investigator accuses him of that, of like, no, you're at the heart of things, and that's where you'll always end up. And I like the way that Holden very, very basically futilely executes his free will by being like, I'm going to go super fast now.
And then he has to stop, or else he'll die. I'm just exercising my free will. Oh, I see. You're just being funny about it now.
Angsty boy.
With Holden, just to talk about him as an individual, he has tried to not be what he is now. And everyone told him...
He still doesn't feel as comfortable being back here now that he's gone through what he has. It's not like he hasn't reset as a character. It's not just like, and now he's back in hero mode. It matters that he's had the journey that he has before this point.
Do you think he has free will? Do you think that things are determined for him? Because he believes that he has free will. When he was rebelling against being the main character, he thought, I was exercising free will, but everyone kept saying to him, this is not you. The real version of you would be the guy that gave a shit and would help and save the day. Everyone was saying this is out of your nature, that this is not how things work for you. And then he has to fall back into line. Now, is it him falling back into line because he has choice, or is it because he was a program that's now been fixed? Like, I don't mean that literally. I mean in the sense of a...
I'm leaning more towards fate, especially for Holden. Because just the fact that he keeps on ending back up here at the center of everything, and the reluctant hero a lot of the time as well. I think this kind of sums up where I end up, because I do feel like it's more on the side of fate than free will. But it feels more like the kind of free will that you have in a video game, where you have your options, you have your path. But even in an open world video game, you still end up at the same climax as everybody else who did it in a different way. Holden is still going to end up at the center of everything, whether he wants to or not. He will find his way there. What he does with that and how he interacts with that is more up to his own choices.
Is he special? Is he unique? Because the show has argued many times over that he is, but also this is a series in which it does state that others will rise up in your place.
Yeah, it's not that only Holden can do this. It's that Holden is uniquely advantaged to do this.
Always had this crazy notion about free will.
Then how come it is that every time there's some clusterfuck shitstorm situation in the universe, there's James Holden shrugging shoulders saying, how the hell did I end up here?
You're really pumping me up for this mission.
What I am really pushing back against with some of the stuff here is I don't trust the hologram. I don't trust Miller fully because Holden points this out many times, and it's proven how much of this is actually Miller talking to me and how much of this is the system that these aliens have made just forcing me to reactivate you.
Yeah, and I did also question, I was like, is this gonna be a prison?
Yeah, you were asking, is this Star Trek 5? Is what you were asking.
Yes, I was.
But Holden tries to do perhaps you're an image in my head, and perhaps I'm an image in your head, and you get Thomas Jane as Miller being like, no, we're not doing that. We're not gonna play around with that. But why I'm dubious on certain things is, and the episode really is too, is the hat, right?
Yeah. Why the hat?
Holden doesn't know anything about the hat. He doesn't know a single thing about this hat. And this version of Miller is trying to really play it up in this episode of, no, I'm not Miller. I'm just utilizing your brain to give you a familiar face to talk to you. And you know Miller. And then it's like, well, what's with the hat? Well, I like the hat. Well, how would you know about that if you're only going off of Holden? Well, no. Clearly, they've absorbed Miller in some way as...
they have some choice themselves, like some individuality, because it wouldn't be default programming to pick the hat.
And to have a preference for it. But even just going beyond just that silly little thing, because the hat's a fun thing to talk about, but they have made a choice of having it, and we say maybe because Thomas Jane had a different haircut, but it's probably other things too. But
yeah, they're making it work for them, whether it was a choice or a functional choice or
but Holden
whatever it actually
keeps poking at this image in front of him. He keeps antagonizing, and he keeps trying to bring Miller out to play because it keeps saying things that Miller knows and says, and the whole doors and corners and the case and all of the cop stuff. But it's also lacking in a lot of ways of what Miller was like. And Holden has noticed that. He keeps hitting it to try and get like the real Miller out in any way. But when he does, it goes into this function of talking about, oh, well, have you ever noticed that you don't have free will? And all of these conversations that are just basically trying to force Holden to do what it wants. And is that, in your opinion, Miller in his own weird way trying to force Holden to do something? Or do you think it is this alien system just inhabiting parts of this consciousness it's absorbed into itself to get a person to activate it.
I think it's more programming than Miller.
I think, oddly enough, with everything I said, I do think it's Miller. I do think there's
aspects of Miller there, but I think it chose Miller for the functional purpose, and as it is embodying him, it is learning, it is growing, it is diversifying. So the more time the investigator spends as Miller, the more Miller has an influence over.
It's like he's corrupting the system or taking it in its way as it's taking him. I think that Miller is the thing that does want to look into what's going on with this alien technology as well. And I think what's really fascinating about this is we just had this big conversation about free will versus fate, and now we can apply it to Miller. He's dead. He's dead. And Holden asks him about that. You died. What was that like? Did it hurt all at once, or was it bit by bit? You burned up. Was it just as easy as that? And how are you now with it? And it makes him emotional. It makes him emotional. See, he hasn't been emotional. He's been quirky and strange, but he hasn't been vulnerable in any human sense. And all he's wanted to do is be the investigator figure that we knew him to be, but with this cosmic level event of like, I want to unlock these doors that have been left here for us to pick at. But if he is Miller in any way, do you think that this alien technology that consumes everything and does what you say, learn everything, do you think there's an element within this series where it's possible that Miller's own determination and willpower could overwhelm that? Or do you think that this is a series that
no, I think it could. I think it could. I think it could be the downfall of this entire thing that it picks Miller.
Because he's just so much of a strong force.
Yeah. And because, sci-fi loves making humanity unique.
I am always a bit tentative on that because I think it can be very corny.
Oh, yeah.
It can be undermining, too, of the stuff. It's like when Doctor Who, when Craig got turned into a Cyberman, and then he hears his child cry and he defeats being turned into a Cyberman because love. The sheer force of will there, and I kind of roll my eyes, but I don't know. I'm wanting to see where they go with this, because maybe it's me also wanting Miller to be not maybe whole again, but for him to be real in a sense, because I liked him as a character. I grew to appreciate him. And does that factor in for you where maybe we give some of this more leeway because we had an affinity towards the character more than maybe what the show is saying to you?
I don't think there's any point in denying that.
He needs Holden to open up the records, he says. I need to learn the information. But he tells us something very important. Did you catch it? Did you note down what Miller had to say about the aliens and the technology? That these things have been left here, unattended, for a very long time. Really giving the sense of what I was saying about how I thought that this is going to be a tale about leftover remnants of a civilization far gone.
I did take note of that. And it's a nice way that it ties back to what Alex was saying about it being like, it's the absence. And, Miller is just like, there used to be a civilization here, but there's not anymore, and there hasn't been.
I just want to say Holden does put his hand in the thing, but he has a really nice conversation with Miller about Julie.
And trying to draw out how much Miller is in there. And it is interesting when he, like, you know, poofs out of existence and then pops back in, and he, like, Thomas Jane embodies that sense of being weighed down by existence.
What happens is we see he's sad. The thing about Miller was he was an inherently depressed character. He was an inherently tragic one. And as the investigator, he has just been this otherworldly presence, funny even, abstract, but he hasn't had the deep emotional core to the character. Now he does, and we see he's laying down and he's slumped down and he's almost got tears in his eyes as he's recalling the death and how Julie told him the story about as you die, an angel takes your hand and you fall and you aren't afraid, and he was hoping to be that angel for Julie, but in the end, he was afraid. Going back to the fear talk that Alex was saying at the beginning of the episode. And now we're having it with Miller, and that Julie was the angel, which is not a surprise when you look at how the first season played out, where he kept he kept imagining Julie, and then when he was on the station, he kept seeing an image of her guiding him through the stuff, and the bird, which comes back up again, by the way. The bird from the first season, that comes back up because Holden fucking sticks his hand in the thing like an idiot, and he goes on a 2001 Space Odyssey, like just crazy nightmare, flashing through things. We see him naked. We get the particle effects of the bird flying around. We see what appears to be all of these different rings and bubble space to other galaxies, other solar systems.
I looked at that and I was like, ooh, magician's nephew. Cool.
I don't know. A magician's nephew, is that a thing?
Yeah, it's the first book in, like, it's the prequel to The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which, like, is one of my favorite books, in that there's sort of, like, it's been a while since I read it, so apologies if I get details wrong. But basically, there's this version of this forest and all of these puddles that lead to different universes. And then, like, Narnia is one of those.
Nice.
But it's just like, this is like, I'm imagining the nucleus in this ring sort of being potentially a connection point. So I'm still thinking that it has some connection, where I think you're leaning more towards the super weapon theory.
Oh, of course I am. I believe that all of these are windows, all of these are entrance points to different solar systems for whatever the people who built the ring were, like that race, to when they have the protomolecule activate in that galaxy, it will build the ring, open up this space so that they can fire a big fucking laser through it and destroy the sun of that galaxy, of that solar system, and then they can just swoop on in. They don't even need to send a fleet of ships in there, because what Holden sees is exactly that. He sees an image of a sun being blasted at, going supernova, and then he is launched out of the thing. He has gained the records, and I think that this is very much the case. And if they have been gone for a very long time, like what, billions of years, because the Phoebe station stuff was inside that body, that asteroid that it came billions of years ago.
Yeah. It's just like, well, it's still going. It's still doing the thing.
Now we get to play with those dangerous things, and we are out of our element with it, but everyone's here trying to stake a claim.
It's that I'm suspicious of it being such a straightforward thing as to be a weapon, because throughout the whole show they keep on talking about the potential of the protomolecule, and is it weapon, is it resource, is it both?
I think it was a resource to help open a weapon. I think the protomolecule was this thing to build a jump gate or a ring that would give a window into a solar system so that they can fire a big laser through it. Spoilers for Star Trek Picard Season 2, but this is actually how you set up such a thing. In Star Trek Picard Season 2, they ended by saying, oh, the reason all of this happened was some random alien force out there opened up a little window and fired a laser into your solar system to destroy it. And we had no way to know that because they never set any of it up. This is 3 seasons of giving us the little bits at a time. So when we get here, I can say what I just said, and I have whole seasons worth of stuff to go off of. Now, if I'm wrong,
There's patience. There's patience there.
There's information. There's clues. There's context to build the stuff on. We are allowed to play with the show. Not the show is playing with us.
You didn't do the thing.
Context is for kings.
There we go.
Universal laws for lackeys. Context is for kings.
We cut over to the Thomas Prince, and Anna is very much taking charge. She is comfortable and she's embracing the doctor side, the scientist side of herself. And she has a theory as to why everything is slowed down and why you get grabbed when you go a certain speed. She keeps seeing on the chart that they have on the little hologram screen that there's this purple wibbly wobbly energy around certain ships. Why is that? What is that all about? And what's her theory? What's her theory as a doctor specifically?
Her theory is that it's working in a biological sense. Of anything that is going too fast is seen as dangerous. So it gets attacked by the immune system and held in stasis, kind of like an abscess, like when you get a splinter.
She has her theory, and we know the speed at which her theory would activate. That if you go this much, you get stopped. And it's a defense mechanism. Why? Why is it this way? What is the speed all about? But we've had to learn a lot of rules, as have the characters once they've entered the ring, and there's new ones to figure out. But I want to ask you, and I don't know if there's an explanation for all of this, and maybe it's just me being a nitpicking nerd or the show taking another dramatic shortcut because it has been known to do that, but they fire bullets at Holden, and the ring does the speed stop thing, but the bullets are much slower than what the speed stop thing is. So how come the bullets just don't shoot Holden?
I think it's because of Miller. I think Miller is protecting Holden. So it's like he's an extension so he can turn, like he can interact with the ship.
He can interact with the nucleus in a way, yeah.
Yeah, I said just ship by default. Don't.
The thing, the thing, because he...
The console, like he creates the console. So I feel like it's just, like that's Holden being protected so that he can put the hand in the thing.
Okay, fair enough. And
I think, tearing Ken apart was just like a show of force.
No, it was it fixing itself because it used his matter to re-establish what was destroyed via them.
Yes.
So I don't even know if it was a show of force. I think it was just a casual use of proto-molecule doing what it normally does, which is it just disassembles the thing and reassembles it. Doesn't have any discrimination. Just does what it does.
It's not malice.
It's not malice. It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Anna is too busy being the scientist. She's too busy trying to have a conversation about what is the best method of approaching things because she's in awe. She is so thrilled to be here. There's that sequence where they finally enter the ring and it is treated as a celebration on that ship's part rather than just a necessity like it is for all of the others. Like when the behemoth went through it, there was fear, but once they went through it, it's just any other place. Well, everyone else is treating it as
reverence.
That. Well, yeah, that ship, the Thomas Prince with Anna, is treating it with this special reverence. And a member of the ship, the one we saw last episode, comes up to Anna, says, I'm a person of the same faith as you. I'm from this place, the Methodist. And he asks her a question. He's clearly overwhelmed, emotionally speaking, from everything going on. He asks her the question of, do you think God wants us here? She gives a very half-hearted response. I can't even tell you what she said. And that's
She was like, the
point.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go over here now.
She gives the bare minimum of what she's supposed to do, which is the point.
Yeah, she isn't being a minister at that point.
When we saw this guy, we knew immediately that he was going to kill himself because he was just played so specifically. They kept lingering on him. He was sweating. He may as well have said, I'm going to do something reckless. And
it was like sabotage or suicide. That
was definitely the two options. And Anna could see that. She reached out to him. She said, hey, are you okay? And he said he was fine. And then he slowly left. And Anna went immediately back to being the scientist, being the person who's far more interested in figuring out the puzzle rather than helping those around her. And before even the man takes his life, did you take note of Anna's behavior in the episode, or was it once they shined a light on it that you were looking back and saying, "Oh, okay, there was problems here"?
I was noticing that because I think I made a comment about it even in our last record about she's being more of a scientist than anything else, and that's not what she mainly is. So the fact that she's challenged in this way and feels like she's failed because she didn't do the thing that ministers are meant to do, and she feels like maybe this is a reminder of her place.
The man takes his life. Anna finds out about it, and she feels
that
the
comment
guilt.
about the euphemism?
Yes. There was a moment where her and the lead scientist guy, who, by the way, was on the X-Files as the younger version of the cigarette-smoking man, so that's a neat little detail for those people keeping track out there. But they had a little back and forth right before that conversation that I found interesting. Like, we walked in on it halfway through, and it was basically the idea of, well, now that we have evidence that there's other things out there, does that not counter your belief system? And she says, no, it doesn't. And here's a quote from St. Augustine that says exactly that. And so you can have nuance, you can have both. You can have all of these things and still have faith and you still believe.
If it doesn't make sense, you don't understand everything yet.
That's it. And then she finds out the news. She feels immense guilt. And Elizabeth Mitchell brings the talent she always does, but I feel so devastated when you see that very kind face get really sad. It's just, Anna has been challenged throughout the show, but she's still like this happy presence. To then see her like truly broken by this is something that makes me sad, because I didn't know this guy, and when he shot himself I was like, yeah, of course, but
we care more about the impact on her than him as an individual. It's a challenge to character and to faith that I don't think I've seen in this way before.
Especially not in this genre.
I know.
Of TV, at least.
No, and it's fascinating. And you do wonder, like, Anna has proven herself to be valuable as a scientist. And now she wants to step back from that and be more firmly in her role as a minister.
That's what she's there to do. She's not there to be a scientist. She's there as one of the godly people, and she hasn't been doing her godly role.
That's not it anymore, because that role is over. If she had just been doing that, then she would have gone fucking home. But it's changed because she stayed. She was selfish.
Mm-hmm.
She did that.
And now there's a cost to it.
There's a punishment, even, perhaps. But it's just like, well, is she going to overcorrect? Because the thing is that we know that Anna is at her best when she is using both sides of herself. And she lost herself in the science side. And now is she going to overcorrect and go too hard into being full minister mode? Or is she going to find that balance again?
That is a great thing to ponder, because we believe in her, but we also know that there's shortcomings to her judgment, and yet the conviction that she has is so powerful that we know that it will most likely work out fairly well in the end for her. I was so happy with how they did this. I really do love how they write spirituality, and that there is a respect and reverence for it, but also you don't think that this show is, religious propagandary nonsense stuff. And it isn't like Star Trek Discovery or even Battlestar Galactica, where it's just using religion as this wishy-washy thing to sound more profound. It's not the
iconography.
Yes, it's not just using iconography or verbiage of spirituality to do the legwork. No, they're really getting into stuff such as a woman like her. What was her responsibility? Is she responsible for this man's death? The answer is no, of course, but she was a part of things. She did engage with him. She did connect with him for a moment, and it wasn't a good enough connection. And she was aware of that in the moment and definitely afterwards. And yes, she would not be here if she just remained as the minister, if she just remained as the religious lady. But that is why she's here too. She wanted to be here for the selfish desire, but that's not what God, if we want to go there, that's not what God chose her for. God chose her to be the person that she says she needs to be and that she starts to act out being by the end of the episode. And I think that is just...
It's stellar writing. It's absolutely stellar writing.
I can guarantee you, again, we do not engage with the fan base. We only have our patrons that talk to us. So I have no clue what the book character is like. I have no clue what the reception to the television show character is like. But I can guarantee you that there is a good majority of people who probably hate all of this stuff. Because usually within this genre, and even within this show, this is looked down upon. Like, look at the Mormons. The Mormons are a joke. That's all they are, and I've accepted that now. I was hoping that there would be some more meaningful stuff with their inclusion, but outside of that one Mormon conversation, they've been treated as a joke. And I think oftentimes fans of shows like this would find these scenes and these conversations and these topics
a lot of
to
sci-fi fans are aggressively atheist.
And I think I wouldn't be surprised if people find all of this stuff to be dull. I find it to be the best material of the show.
You're not here to praise the Lord. No, I'm here to talk to people. To offer comfort where comfort is needed. To sit with people when they're scared and grieving. That is what a minister is supposed to do.
She does a very familiar thing within the realm of preaching, which is they're responding to something that has happened and something that has happened to them, but also before, and in experiences and in scripture, and giving a lesson. So we see her drafting this eulogy, and that turns more into a sermon.
Yes, it does.
And her being like, she realizes that she needs to connect, and that she needs to be a minister, and she goes all in on that role, giving this eulogy, and is just like, okay, like this is done. He is gone. I didn't get to know him. Some of you would know him better, but let his loss be a reminder of what we can have, what we can build, and take time to connect with each other.
She admits that this person and the loss of them made her realize something that she had forgotten, that what God wants is for us to be together, that God wants us to be a community, that God wants us to be able to reach out to one another. So this man's loss is a reminder of that. Do not be afraid to open up. Do not be afraid to stop for a second about thinking about yourself and think about others. And that's a very profound, like, it's not only just a profound message, it's a clear one, especially outside of faith too, but it is something that people forget about. It's something that we overlook in real life because of habits, and we see that is very much the case on societal levels within real life and within this series. But Anna forgot that on an individual level, and that's her fucking job. That's why she is where she is at. And I was really bowled over by this. And we were talking about in the last episode and a couple of what is this show's stance on God, because they keep mentioning God. They keep talking about, like, what does God want? Does God believe this? Is God out here? And Anna makes it very clear what her stance is on it. And I think the stance of the show, I think the show believes that if there is a God, God is a bit like a benevolent one and a positive force, and God is love and community. And I was really just it did become a sermon, right? It wasn't just we're here to grieve a man. It's now we're here to learn something and to appreciate something.
Let his loss not be in vain.
You said, will Anna go too far in this direction? Would you argue that she hasn't already? Because her friend, the fancy pants debutante, aging debutante, has found out that Melba is actually Clarissa Mao. And she confides.
Yeah, she gives a blanket recommendation that's useful for her current situation, but does not consider any dangers.
This debutante confides in her friend that is Anna, of what she should do. And Anna says, because she's trying to believe in the best of people, trust your own judgment. And this person's judgment is going to get her killed. What we see is Melba does not react positively to this charity and or pity, and she takes a bite of the tooth, which, by the way, how does that... I always wonder how these things work. Like, when they're eating dinner, do you accidentally set that off? I don't know. But she takes a bite of the capsule, and she goes Hulk mode, and she's going to fucking murder this lady, but the events of the other plot lines make it so that the ship is grabbed and that they're separated for a moment in time. But how do you... Did Anna do a bad thing here?
No, again, she was misguided. She was thinking more about herself. She wasn't listening.
She was thinking in the sense of...
But also, like,
morals, and
that's
not rationale.
the advice that a minister would give.
She wasn't thinking in rational thought. She was thinking in the way that we would hope. Yes, you should reach out to this. Like, use your judgment. Your judgment is saying that you should reach out to this person and support them. Then that's the decision, rather than call in the cops and have their skull beaten. But she should have done that. She really should have done that.
But also, she wasn't to know that Clarissa was dangerous.
Yet, wouldn't you? She doesn't,
No,
because
but
she sees herself as Clarissa. She's like, I am the same as her. I also have a shitty dad who's involved in these things.
Absolutely. But the idea of like, the debutante is definitely assuming innocence on the part of Clarissa, where we know that that's misguided.
True. But again, like with Anna, if you use common sense, you would not. And even this woman says that, like, I should probably do this, but I want to do this, because not only is it just her trying to be a goody two-shoes, but she even says, there is an element of, if she goes down, a part of me can go down because of my association with her. So it's not purely noble, but
No.
But there is a level of it, and she does try to be helpful and is met with violence. Because that's this show, and doesn't that just go into what the previous guy said? That the ring is just going to be more death, more blood, more senselessness, that nothing will change, that God does not live out here?
There's no geographical solution to a mental problem.
On our rating system of Yum being bad and Yum Yum being good, where do we land on Dandelion Sky? You were at the beginning saying positive things, but also felt very not positive. So talk us through a bit about your feelings now that we've ended this, and what is your rating?
This is a really solid episode, and it's doing a lot of really interesting things with characters, with themes, and it justifies a lot of the last episode's labor. I don't have a bad thing to say about this episode. It's clearly a yum yum.
Yum yum.
As I said, this is probably one of my favorite episodes of the season. I kind of didn't expect that to be the case, because now that we've done the flash forward, like we've cut forward in time, and the second half of the show is an adaptation of a different book, I resigned myself to thinking, I'll like the episodes, but I don't think there'll be one in particular that will blow me away more than what we got in the first half of the season. But here is Dandelion Sky to say otherwise. Here it is to say this may be a contender for the best of the season, and it makes me look forward to the remaining episodes. And so definitely a yum yum from me.
Yum yum.
Now, are you ready to hear what the title of the next episode is?
You betcha.
We don't know anything more than the title, haven't looked at the description, have not looked at the thumbnail, and we will go through the title and our predictions of what could happen next on The Expanse, and in general, what could be happening further down the line, our predictions. Now, the episode is called Fallen World. That is the title. Now, what do you think could be happening in Fallen World, and do you have any predictions further for The Expanse? Is there anything down the line that you think could be the case thanks to stuff in this episode or things that you've been mulling over?
With this one, I think it is going to be a little bit more with Miller and Holden and Bobby on the nucleus. I think Naomi's going to make it to the Rossi. I think we might check back in with camera woman and cameraman.
She was not a camera woman. She was a
wasn't.
reporter.
She wasn't. She was the presenter. I think we might check in with them. I think we're going to get another Avasarala on the screen, not in person.
Sure. I'm a little bit stumped of what could be happening next episode. I I'm wondering because all of the ships are stopped because of the self-defense. So will it be deactivated and things can move again? What will be happening? Will Naomi make it, or will they get arrested by the Martians first? My big prediction is that Holden will accidentally transport himself somewhere else, thus the title Fallen World. That he will transport himself to that galaxy he saw the sun die and he's on some barren planet. Or maybe it's like Star Trek Discovery's 4th season, in which when they went outside of the galactic barrier, they went to a planet where the alien civilization used to be and it's a dead one, and then it gives us some little clues of what we could be going into next.
Yeah, that's also what I was thinking.
That's my big prediction for the next episode. Down the line stuff, I am curious of if we, in next season, will still be dealing with the ring, or are we going to be moving on from that at the end of this season? Like, is the back half of season 3 all... That's true. Like, do you think that we will have adventures outside of our solar system, outside of our galaxy? If so, what would that even look like? But those are more just questions and thoughts than maybe hardcore predictions. Hardcore predictions is Ashford, I think, is going to season finale. I think he's going to overthrow Drummer, and then season 4 is going to be him in charge of the behemoth, fucking shit up real good, and then they have to overthrow him and kick him out or kill him or whatever. Just typical villain shit. But that is our conversation on Dandelion Sky. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you all so much for supporting the podcast with your listens and or your financial support if you're on our Patreon. If you have not reviewed the podcast, you should do so. It would be very beneficial to us. It would mean a great deal as well. But if you want to contact us, Rachel, what are the best ways to follow the show and contact us?
We're on various social medias under yumyumpod or yumyumpodcast, which are linked in the description. Also down there is our email, which is yumyumpod@gmail.com. But my personal favourite way to communicate with the Yumlings is through the Patreon Discord.
The Discord is a fun place. We keep talking about the Gaunt Belter. We keep talking about Amos predictions. I really do enjoy just fan casting different versions of The Expanse. Like if there was a British version of The Expanse, if there was an Australian version of The Expanse. Now, if there was an Aussie version, Rachel, we're experts here. If there was an Aussie version of The Expanse, who would you cast as Avasarala? That's the biggest one. Who do you cast as her? And why is it Deborah Malman?
I was legitimately thinking of her. I was legitimately like, well, need a person of color who's a strong, powerful woman.
Not even that. I just think Deborah Malman is such a great talent, and she can do all of that stuff. She's great, and if it's an Aussie production, you have to have her in it. She's always in Australian productions. Now, if you have to cast James Holden, who would be the Aussie Jimmy Holden? Who would you put in that role? And why is it Josh Lawson? He's gone to America, so he can have a bit of sway, but I honestly think Josh Lawson would have done a great job as James Holden. Maybe let's be wild and throw Hamish Blake in there as
Blake is Alex.
Oh man, that would be wild. No, we need some Fat Pizza cast members to be in this show too. We need Paulie from Fat Pizza to be Anderson Dawes. He would be great. But the big one to end this out on, who in Australia would you cast as the Gaunt Belter? Who's the Gaunt Belter? Out of our amazing pool of talent, who would you bestow the honor of being the Gaunt Belter?
A part of me, I'm like, this is not a genuine answer, but it's the first stupid thing that popped into my head, and that is Rebel Wilson.
But Rachel, you can't cast Rebel. She's in too many lawsuits right now. You can't do that. She'll sue us for defamation. I don't know. This is probably the most challenging question. Could it be Paul Hogan? My go-to for any Aussie in The Expanse is Paul Hogan in some role. We know he's the Doctor Accent.
What about the guy from Rake?
I knew you were going to say the lead guy from Rake.
Yeah.
He's too dashing. He could play Miller.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want Jeffrey Rush.
No. Oh my, the Gaunt Belter. I feel like you have to have a young talent. You have to have like a young, fun talent. Could we cast
Do we cast out of Neighbours or Home and Away?
That's a great thing. Do we cast out of Neighbours or Home and Away? I don't know. Everyone, we're going to leave you on a cliffhanger with that. Maybe lob some Aussie talent our way that you think could be the Gaunt Belter. Could it be Ben Mendelsohn? Could it be Ben Mendelsohn? Mendo?
No.
Now, he would be Anderson Dawes. There's no fucking doubt about that. He would be a great Anderson Dawes. Or could it be his good friend, Jeremy Sim? Maybe he could be it. But let us know in any of the comments or email us. Until next time, remember that the Gaunt Belter is still out there. He has not been confirmed dead yet. So the Gaunt Belter, like Havelock, will return.
See you then. Well, voila.